So, I've been doing YouTube for quite a long time. In fact, I've been doing YouTube for probably about 12 years now. And in that amount of time, I've learned to do a lot of things. One of these things that I've learned is thumbnails. I've been working very hard on mastering my thumbnails, and I don't think I'm the best, but I do think I know a little bit about it. And in a recent Obsidian Order SMP meeting that we had, one of my buddies said, "Hey, we need help, man. We don't know how to make thumbnails." They probably know how to make thumbnails, but they wanted a little bit of advice from a seasoned pro. I think that means me. So I'm just gonna make a video to show you the whole entire process from beginning to end. I'm gonna show you the thought that goes into each thumbnail that I do and the preparation work that goes into making that thumbnail, all the way down to the editing software that I use to make said thumbnail. All right, strap in. I don't know where this is gonna go, to be honest with you. I'm kind of just crossing my fingers and hoping that this video works out. I don't do tutorials. So let's start this video off right and talk about inspiration and preparation, right? I don't like to just jump into the world and instantly take a picture and then convert that into a thumbnail. I like to think about what's going to make that thumbnail pop. And one of the best ways to do that is just to go to YouTube and take a quick scroll, right? I'm scrolling through the highest relevance and the highest viewed videos here in Minecraft. All you have to do is type in your niche into the search bar and see what is getting a lot of traction and what is getting a lot of views, and specifically what attracts you to that video. For example, if I'm looking at these thumbnails, there's a lot of attracting videos, but the ones that are hitting me the most are this 100,000 blocks hardcore world, which looks super sick, and Tommy in its face is just glaring at me. I also think that the titles are very big, right? You can definitely see that there's 100 mobs here, and the I captured all Minecraft mobs in 24 hours video. That's sick. I like that. That's going to make me click. So there's elements here that I want to take as inspiration and understand that I want to translate that into my own video. I'm not going to copy and paste, but I'm going to take it as inspiration. And speaking of inspiration, a lot of people don't actually know this, but in your YouTube studio, if you go to the left-hand side and you hit content, there is a tab up here. It says inspiration. It's kind of an AI generative tool, but I like using it because you can just type in what you want to make. Like, for example, I want to make a thumbnail tutorial, and it'll pop up a couple different ideas. They're not the best ideas, but you can see a constant theme throughout. These look pretty sick, right? So once again, if you're looking for inspiration, hey, maybe you can use this. Now, using that inspiration, I actually made a little bit of my own thumbnail for a recent video that I posted. I made a Trials and Tribulations mini game here on the Obsidian Order SMP, and so I made this fun-looking thumbnail to kind of match the vibe. It's supposed to be this gringy, kind of yucky dungeon basement with some creaking in it. A little bit of spoilers if you haven't seen the video, but I made this cool-looking thumbnail based off of that. And once again, I'm using elements that I've seen on YouTube. For example, I got the big text that says Obsidian Order SMP. It might even be good if I changed the color of Order SMP because it's kind of hidden behind the creaking there. I do have a face element. That's this creaking guy right here. He does have a nice little outline, which I'll show you how to do here in a minute. And then obviously I got some fog effect in the background, which I think adds to the photo or adds to the thumbnail pretty significantly. But I didn't just start off with this. I started out with something that looks a little bit like this. And there's some glaring issues right away, right off the bat. For starters, this creaking really does blend in with the wood in the background. There's a lot of just whatever going on here. I don't like the fact that you're kind of drawn to this coal block a little bit more because it is so dark. Your eye is just drawn up here. I don't necessarily like that. I want the focus to be right here. So the first thing that I do with every single thumbnail that I make is I just scale it up pretty significantly. In this case, I think I'm going to go to about I like even numbers, 1630, and I'm just going to try to frame it a little bit better. Yeah, that's beautiful. See? Now I'm cutting off a bunch of that nasty white side and the charcoal or the coal block up here. So the focus is exactly where I want it to be. I can even move it over a little bit here and kind of get that trials and tribulations sign right here off to the left. I also got to keep in mind that I am going to have the Obsidian Order SMP running across the top here. So I do want to bring this down a little bit and leave some room for that. And there you have it. I positioned it perfectly. Now, speaking of title and everything, I want to start there. Let's talk about all the elements that I want within this picture. For starters, I want a title. I've saved this title over and over and over again, so I just have a copy of it. If you want to go to a generative text website and use a random text website there, you can. I got this, believe it or not, from my video editor. I just basically went to one of the title options. I found this really cool font, and I wanted to use it on my video. So I just said, okay, well, I will just copy and paste it, resize it, and throw it to where I want. So right now, I'm just playing around with the sizings, because basically what I want to do is I want to select that Order SMP part and move it off here to the right. Now, how am I going to do that? Because this image is connected. Easy. I'm just going to get this selection tool up here in the top left, and I am going to just get what I want, and I'm going to cut it out of there by Control-Xing and pasting it back by Control-Ving. Now, when you paste stuff like that, down here in the bottom right, you have a layer. It says Floating Selection. If I click out of that, that floating selection is instantly going to be placed onto the next layer. But I don't like that, because if I do click out of it, well, then I didn't do anything. It just got pasted onto the layer with the obsidian word on it, so I really didn't do anything there. So what I'll do is in the bottom right, I'll right-click that, and I will go to to new layer, right? Now I can move this without having any worry of the obsidian word moving as well. So I'm just going to line that up. I'm going to put it closer to the top here, try to line it up with the top of the word, and I like that. Now I'm lucky because I already have the next element in the video already. I have the creaking. That's the face that I want to put into my video. If I did not have the creaking and I wanted to put me in the video, for example, I have a couple different methods to do that. The first method that I have is to actually go into a mod called Replay Mod. If you don't know what this is, I highly recommend looking it up. It's basically just a camera mod where you get to record what you did in that video and then go around in a third-person view and watch what you did. For example, there's me. That was me about 10 minutes ago when I recorded that, and if I press play, you'll see I was moving. And that's what Replay Mod does. It's a good way to get time lapses. It's a good way to get videos that show you an encompassing project. Or it's a good way to get thumbnails. For example, I built this police department in the last episode. So I want to show me off in front of that police department. So I'm going to wait until I do a fancy little maneuver. That's a fancy little maneuver. I'm going to pivot the view just ever so slightly. Sorry if I'm making you sick. There you go. I am then going to press F1 and look at that. I have a pretty good thumbnail with me as an element in that scene. I also have access to a couple different websites. For example, NovaSkin is a great website where I can go ahead and move myself in a scene. I can go up to one of these tabs and hit pose and change literally everything about every part of my body. Which, if we could do that in real life, I would be skinny. But what I usually do is I just go up here to random pose and I hit that a good couple times until I get the pose that I want. Hey, that looks like a good running pose. So I want this. I want to put that into my photo editor. So I'm going to go up here to the photo option, click photo, and there you go. I have something that I could save image as or even copy image and throw into your photo editor. Boom. Easy as that. I also have Block Bench, which is super fun. There's things you could do in Block Bench that you can't do in NovaSkin, and I'm sure you can do it in like programs like Photoshop as well, but I am not talented in the ways of Photoshop, so Block Bench is an easy in-between, I guess, but it has the same thing. If you throw in your character model, you go up here to pose, There are multiple different automatic poses that you can choose, like me running, me crouching, me sitting, or my favorite, me jumping for joy. So once again, this is something you can throw in. All you have to do is go up here to the top right. It says preview, hit those three lines, and then go screenshot model. Boom. And then you would just save that to whatever you want. It's got a transparent background. You would throw it into your image. Like I said, there's probably other ways to do that, but those are the ways that I personally like. And like I said, they're 100% free, and that's what attracts me to them. But I already have my element in this scene, so I want to make that element pop a little bit. As of right now, I can't really do much with this image. If I try to move him, I move the whole entire image, and that's a no-go. I want him to stand alone, but because this is a 2D image, that's impossible. What I can do, though, is use a little bit of editing magic. There is this lasso tool that I like using ever so much. In the top left here, I don't think it's called lasso, I think it's called free select tool. I will click on the layer that I want to cut here in the bottom right, and I will simply just do a little bit of zooming in, and I will simply just line up what I want to cut out of the image. I want to try to include as much of this image that I want to see in the foreground as possible, just by outlining the whole entire thing. So give me a minute while I meticulously click. And there you have it. I selected them. But now that I have them selected, it's as easy as just cutting him out of the image by Control-Xing and pasting them back on top with Control-V. Kind of similar to what I did with the title here. And once again, I'm left with this floating selection. I'm just going to right-click that, go to New Layer, and now he is his own standalone layer. Now we have this weird textual thing that's happening on the outline of the creaking. I don't necessarily like it, but it's not going to be that big of a deal, honestly, because I want to add an outline to this guy anyway. So how I'm going to do that is, instead of going through that whole entire process and selecting them and trying to figure out what I want in the image and what I don't, I am easily just going to go down here into this layer. I am going to right-click the layer that he's a part of, right? That is his layer. I am then going to go to Alpha to Selection, and that is automatically going to highlight him. Because he's on his own layer and he's the only image in this layer, it's going to automatically select him. And right-click the creaking himself and go to Select, go to Grow, and here I can insert any numerical value. What I think usually works the best is anywhere between 1 and 10. I personally like 6, right? That's just enough width to work for me. So when I press OK, you can see that that outline has now moved a little bit from the creaking out to about 6, I don't know if it's pixels, but 6 distance, whatever that is, away from the creaking. That's what we want. Now, if I go down here into the layers, into the bottom right, it will say create a new layer. Hit that button. I am going to call this the outline layer, and I'm not going to mess with any of these things here. It's not necessary. I'm going to hit OK. Now with that outline layer selected, I'm going to go to the paintbrush tool. I'm going to make sure that it is white. I'm going to use a paintbrush that has a little bit of depth to it. Make sure my opacity is all the way up. And I am just going to paint that whole entire selection white. Easy as that. There you go. Now the work is pretty much done. You've done all that work. All you have to do is go down here into the layers, slide that outline layer just below the creaking layer, and there you have it. You have an outline. I absolutely love that. There is an issue, however, with the text running across the top of the creaking there that I definitely want to fix. So we could do that in a couple different ways. We can go to the eraser tool and just zoom in and meticulously erase what doesn't need to be seen because it is behind the creaking, just like so. Let's see, this E is part of it. Yeah, it's just peeking out over there. It's peeking over the creaking, you know what I mean? And there you go, you have it. That's super simple. Or you can use the lasso tool and cut out what you don't want. So, I mean, that looks a whole lot better in my opinion. Now, there you go. I mean, that's an effective thumbnail already. But if you want to take it to the next level, there's things you can do. By adding a border, it might look cool. If you want to add a logo, for example, I have in the original image here, I have a logo that can go in the bottom left here. I don't think it fits really, so I'm not going to put that in there. But that's something you could do. You could add a fog effect like I did in this image here. That's super easy. All you have to do is use this airbrush tool and do a little bit of something like, you know, this, for example. And then you just go back in and make it a little bit darker. And you go back in, you make it a little bit darker. And then before you know it, you have a pretty effective fog effect, which is super cool. I would recommend not doing it on your image layer, though, just in case you want to separate the two. You would make your own layer and then call it like fog or something, and then do it like this. So that way, if I do any, changes to the scene like this, for example, and I don't like it, I want to see what it looked like original, I can just change off the visibility to it. There's also a lot of options up here in tools and colors and layers and filters. For example, you can add, a blur effect to the background. Let's see, how does that work? And that's not bad. If I move that blur to the creaking, for example, and I make it a little bit more of like a fish eye. Let's see if I zoom out. How does that look? I mean, that's cool. Not necessarily what I want, though, because I do want to see the trials and tribulations, but it is a cool effect, right? They also have things like enhancing it. If you have your own personal picture in there, you can remove your red eyes, for example, distort the image, add a little bit of noise. I mean, I'm sure it has its usage. Not for me, but it does have its usage. But guys, I think that's it. That's all that I really do. Now, there's other methods. There's other ways to do things. You could bring this into Photoshop. You can make this really big 3D render on Blockbench. I don't know. This is what I like to do. It's simple. It's fast. It's streamlined. And I think it makes a really good thumbnail. It's definitely something I would click. And that's why I make it. So if you guys liked this tutorial, it's the first one I've ever made, so I hope it helped. But if it didn't and you still have questions, please feel free to comment in the comments below. I will always answer those. But I'm really interested to see what you guys think about this. And if you guys have any other tips that might help me as a content creator and help my thumbnails, I would like to hear those as well. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I love you guys to death. And I'll see you guys in the next, maybe not a tutorial. I don't know.